Next, we are looking at community characteristics. A person can be well educated, in a working age, very healthy, have a stable household, which a favorable dependency ratio, many assets available. But if that household lives in a community in which it is difficult to use all of these assets and human resources to actually generate income, it might still be difficult for that person or that household to generate enough income to be above the poverty line. What are these types of community characteristics? First and foremost, of course, there is infrastructure. Infrastructure are roads, for example. Infrastructure can be water pipes. Community characteristics also refer to the distribution of land, whether or not a household is actually allowed to have land or has the ability to have land or not. Access to public goods and services, like the proximity to schools and clinics, so that household members can stay healthy when they get ill, or that household members can be adequately treated so that they can recover quickly then when they get ill. And also the social structure and social capital in a community. What is that? That basically refers to networks between people who are able to help each other in times of crisis. Again, talking about the dynamic nature of poverty. When a shock strikes and affects a household in a negative way, and there is a strong social network in a community, then those households who were not affected by the same shock can support those households who were affected by the shock and prevent them from falling into poverty, and supporting them with money, supporting them with maybe labor in order to rebuild destruction that might have been caused by the shock to the properties of the household, and so on, so that the household that was affected by the shock can recover quickly and regain its ability to generate its own income. So this is what we refer to as social capital. It's a very important community characteristic. And last but not least, we have regional characteristics. This is, for example, the level of isolation or remoteness of a community. If a community is very remote and isolated, it's difficult for a community to do trade, for example, with other communities. Trade usually helps communities and the people living in that communities to generate income. Isolation and remoteness can be purely from a geographical standpoint, but it also can be due to poor infrastructure and poor access to markets and services. Another regional characteristic is the overall resource base, that is the land availability and quality, whether or not agricultural land is fertile in a specific area, for example. Weather conditions, whether or not a region is very prone to natural disasters like typhoons or droughts, or whether or not the weather is relatively stable. Frequency of earthquakes is another example for that. Regional governments and management, of course, is another important aspect. Governments do have a lot of opportunities to help people getting out of poverty, staying out of poverty, or helping people to be prevented from falling into poverty through smart governments, to social protection policies, and so on. And last but not least, we have inequality as a regional characteristic. Inequality can be due to economic disparities between different people. It can be inequality due to social aspects, even religious aspects, which might somehow influence the risk of having conflict in a region. And conflict usually is very detrimental to the overall economic situation in a region, and therefore also potentially the poverty status of the people living in that region.